please enjoy this briefing.
So hello and welcome. Thank you all so much for joining us here. We are so excited to be releasing this report and to be sharing all of these findings with all of you. As you know, the name of the report, STEM Learning in After School on the Rise. But sadly, while we found an increase in STEM learning, we're also finding that barriers and inequities continue to exist. I'm going to be joined today by some amazing panelists that you're going to get to hear from. Gemma Lenowitz from the Overdeck Family Foundation, Zelda Waymer of the South Carolina Afterschool Alliance, Nicole Collins-Puri of Techbridge Girls, and Shannon Christian of the Whirlwind Youth Learning Center. Each of our panelists has a unique perspective to share as we consider findings from our new report. We're going to be taking questions after the presentation, so please submit yours using the Q&A button. And if you are from the media, please make sure to note that because we're going to be prioritizing questions from the media. Our America After 3 p.m. study is the most comprehensive look ever at how America's children and youth spend their time during the hours after school and over the summer. We've been conducting this survey every 5 to 6 years since 2004. The last one prior to this study was in 2014. The data that we're looking at today is the first ever that really looks at trends in STEM learning in the after school space, something we have not done before because we first started asking about STEM in 2014. I wanted to extend a really warm thank you to the Overdeck Family Foundation for making this entire report possible. As noted earlier, you're going to get to hear from our wonderful program officer at the Overdeck Family Foundation, Gemma Lenowitz, shortly after me. I also want to thank some of our other funders that have made this study possible: the New York Life Foundation, the Wallace Foundation, the S.D. Bechtel Jr. Foundation, Altria Group, the Walton Family Foundation, and the Charles Stewart Mott Foundation. So a little bit about the methodology. You can find a much more detailed description of our methodology on our website, but our survey was conducted by Edge Research in both English and Spanish. It includes responses from more than 31,000 households. These surveys were conducted right before the pandemic struck. So from January to early March, we interviewed at least 200 households in every single one of the US states, plus the District of Columbia. And then because we knew things clearly changed during the pandemic, we went back and supplemented this with household surveys with both parents and program providers throughout 2020 and into this summer. So I'm going to walk through some of the core findings that we have found in this report. The first key takeaway is really, really good news, which is that opportunities for STEM learning in the out of school time, after school summer learning space are expanding. I'm going to go to the next slide, please. After school programs are providing students with more STEM learning opportunities than ever before. The data suggests that after school is solidly positioned to help address the shortage of STEM workers in our country by inspiring our kids to want to go into STEM careers. It's also helping all of our kids, whether or not they go into STEM careers, really develop critical thinking, collaboration, and problem-solving skills. As we know in the after-school world, hands-on engaging STEM learning in the after-school space inspires young people to explore STEM, to pursue STEM careers, to become STEM literate and STEM fluent, to see STEM role models. And all of this and all of these skills are absolutely essential in preparing our children and our youth for the workforce of today and the workforce of tomorrow. We're also encouraged to see gains across the STEM disciplines. So in every single discipline that we asked about, there's been a significant increase in technology and engineering, which is very exciting, and science offerings in the after school space. Math was already fairly strong, but even that we've seen go up. And this is the first time we've asked about computer science. What we have found about math, which is also very exciting, is that while after school programs are providing this more than any other STEM discipline, we wanted to dig deeper, and it is noteworthy that the math authoring's identified in this chart that you're looking at right now go beyond homework help. So we're not talking about just what's happening in the classroom and supporting it, but hands-on, exciting, engaging math activities. It's also really good news that not only are there more students learning about STEM in their after-school programs, but they're learning about STEM more often. So our second key takeaway measures the views of parents about STEM. And one of the things that we found, which is really, again, very promising, is that significantly more parents recognize the important role after-school programs play in teaching their kids about STEM, much more than they did when we first accessed it 2014, 6 years ago. We see an 11-point jump, and I just want to mention that 11-point jump. That's really significant from the last time we asked this question back in 2014. In a significant increase from 6 years ago, nearly 3 in 4 parents say they seek out STEM and computer science activities when they're seeking an after-school experience for their child. So the fact that parents now know to look for this in a program, we've come a long way. Our third key takeaway, mostly good news because it helps address a problem that our country has struggled with for years. So our programs are serving students that are unrepresented in STEM careers. It is well documented, we hear this all the time, that STEM jobs in this country, which tend to be high paying, offer stability, are mainly held by white men. It's an imbalance that we've been trying to address. And of course, the best way to do this is to be introducing more and more of our students to STEM learning and the kinds of opportunities that exist in these fields. Our study found that providing STEM learning opportunities to Black and Latinx students, we're doing that at even higher rates than to white and Asian American students. And girls have opportunities to participate in after-school STEM activities at the same rate as boys, but there are gender differences. What our study shows is that after-school programs can play an important role as we try to address the imbalance in our country's STEM workforce by reaching underrepresented groups. So again, I think this is super important when we're looking at creating opportunities in STEM for all of our kids, but particularly for our kids that have the least access to STEM learning and knowing about STEM careers. After school is a big part of that solution. What we have found, which is disturbing, is that, and not surprising, that the opportunities aren't equally distributed to all families. So the inequities still exist and they are strong. While there's been considerable progress over the last 6 years, opportunity for STEM learning and after school is growing faster for boys than girls. So we need to be thinking about how do we change that. And the greatest gender disparities between boys and girls is happening in technology and engineering, which are where some of the biggest jobs are, as well as computer science. So this is, again, where we see the gender gaps in the workforce and where there's some really great jobs that we want our kids to be available for and have the skills to succeed in. We also find that there's a huge disparity when it comes to income. So students from low-income families are getting STEM offerings less frequently than the after-school programs serving higher income families. And these students are much less likely to participate in summer learning or summer camp programs that focus on STEM. We believe the gaps between STEM learning opportunities available to students from higher incomes versus those from lower incomes are significant, and they're in all of the STEM disciplines except for math. We think part of the reason, which is addressed in depth in the report, maybe that the after-school programs that offer STEM are more expensive. It is more expensive to have this curriculum, and the summer camps that focus on STEM and summer learning programs that focus on STEM are the most expensive programs. Our fifth and our final takeaway is actually going back up to the macro and the findings from our original report, which is that if we have fewer students in after school and fewer students can afford to attend after school, then they are not benefiting from any of the after school program or any of the resources, including STEM. And if we want to increase access to STEM and after school, we have to make sure that the kids that want to be in after school programs have them accessible to them. There's been a significant drop in the number of students attending after school programs since 2014. That drop has been amongst low-income children and families that don't have means. For every child in an after-school program today, there are 3 more waiting to get in. That is 25 million children. So when we talk to parents, the parents of 25 million students said they wish their kids could be in after-school programs. So even while we're celebrating that more parents are reporting high quality STEM learning opportunities for their kids in the after school space, we're lamenting the fact that for far fewer kids are these opportunities even available. The drop in after school programs, as I keep saying, is not by choice. Families are really struggling to pay for costs, transportation, program availability has gone down, and these barriers have increased since 2014. I'm really optimistic that there's a new surge of resources through the American Rescue Plan, and the decision makers at the state level and local school districts can actually choose to use their dollars to support this kind of learning in after school. And hopefully these partnerships will help us really adjust and create more opportunities for kids, at least in the short term. And then we will need to figure out, as this funding runs out, how to maintain that in the long term. The good news, and I'd be remiss if I don't mention this, and I almost should have started out with it, is that the after school field is tremendous. I am so proud to be part of this field. The field has been absolutely heroic during the pandemic. And throughout the pandemic, programs continue to operate, some virtually, some hybrid, some in person, to provide STEM learning opportunities to kids. And you're going to hear about some of those stories of literally delivering lesson plans and materials to kids that could not attend in person so that they can continue their STEM learning over the summers and throughout the school year when their schools were closed. We've also, as part of this report, identified a few areas where we could use some further research. And answering these questions will really help us dive deeper to figure out the right strategies so that we can inspire all of our kids in STEM learning and use the after school space to ignite that passion and turn that passion into careers. STEM learning in after school also includes a series of recommendations, including more partnerships. Communities have all sorts of resources at their disposal. We really need to tap into them, whether they're community colleges, science centers, outdoor education, lots and lots of resources that can be part of partnerships to bring a wealth of hands-on STEM learning to our kids. Our new report also, and we will make all of these slides available to you, includes a lot of graphics, state-by-state data, and other information. So I encourage you all to go to our website, particularly to find information about your state, as well as all of the national highlights about our findings. So enough from me. It is now my pleasure to introduce Gemma Lenowitz, our program officer at the Overdeck Family Foundation. The Overdeck Family Foundation is a powerful leader in STEM learning and education. Gemma?
Thanks so much, Jody. I'm delighted to be here with the Afterschool Alliance and with all of you as advocates for after-school STEM education around this country. We are eager to discuss the insights from this research, but first, let me step back for a moment and tell you why STEM learning matters and why Overdeck Family Foundation commissioned this research. Out of school time can provide today's children with abundant opportunities to develop 21st century skills and explore their interests. And children spend 80% of their time awake outside the classroom. So there should be learning opportunities available to all children beyond school, in family settings, at museums, libraries, in the park, and of course, in after school and summer programs. So why STEM specifically? We believe learning that incorporates STEM concepts is one of the best ways to stoke a child's curiosity, creativity, and to cultivate their existing passions. We also believe that STEM skills will help increase children's school readiness and college readiness. Right now in this country, a majority of high school students are not prepared for college level science and math on graduation day. By engaging students early and providing access to resources that can stoke achievement from birth through 12th grade, we hope to move the needle on that metric. Research shows us that after-school STEM learning opportunities increase students' perseverance and critical thinking, increase their knowledge of STEM careers, and allow them to develop more positive science identity and overall attitudes towards STEM. But to be clear, we're not saying every student needs to major in STEM or select a STEM career. These programs are not just designed to create scientists, but to encourage logical thinking, data literacy, and problem solving. After-school spaces offer flexibility so educators can see students more holistically, aligned with the whole child approach. And the social and emotional skills they offer children are just as valuable as STEM skills and critical in this moment. The mission of Overdeck Family Foundation is to measurably enhance education inside and outside the classroom. This new research from the America After 3 p.m. series gives us the data we need to understand where after-school STEM is succeeding and where we still have more work to do. We believe supporting a diverse portfolio of approaches to STEM enrichment will result in increased options for students, meet the demand from families, and boost the relevance of classroom learning. These data help us at the foundation and our grantee partners to set strategy on program design, partnerships, equity, and advocacy. With these insights, we have much to celebrate and a sharper focus on what to improve, so all students have the opportunity to thrive in a STEM-forward society. A number of organizations that we support are highlighted in this report, including Science Action Club, Learn Fresh, Club Invention, and Bridge to Enter Advanced Mathematics. We are incredibly proud of the impact and scale these organizations have achieved and how they continue to create positive STEM experiences for youth, despite the many obstacles created by the COVID-19 pandemic and the digital divide. As a field, we need to attend to these barriers and inequities. Students from low-income families are still much less likely to be getting technology, engineering, and computer science in after school than students from higher income families. We also see in this data that after-school STEM opportunities for girls are growing more slowly than for boys. And there's an even bigger barrier, which Jody addressed. After-school programs are anything but universal. So we need to expand opportunities and not allow ethnicity, race, gender, or income to predict access to quality programs. We need to make after-school programs much more widely available and increase after-school tech and engineering. As Jody said, 25 million more students would participate in after-school programs if given access. STEM programs aren't just for children interested in improving science and math skills, although they will help. They're for everyone. And there's perhaps no more important time than now to make these programs highly accessible and available to students across the country. The more children we reach dynamic STEM programs, the better chance they have to succeed in school and in life. We are excited to put these data to work for young people across this country. I'll pass it back to Jody to introduce Zelda Waymer from our partners at the South Carolina Afterschool Alliance. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Gemma, and thank you to the Overdeck Family Foundation for really being a huge influence in this growth of STEM learning in the after-school space. And our report details a bunch of the programs that Gemma mentioned and some of the incredible creative things they're doing to make STEM learning come alive for our kids. It's now my pleasure to introduce Zelda Waymer, the president and CEO of the South Carolina Afterschool Alliance, one of the state networks that is doing amazing things to advance STEM education in the state of South Carolina. Zelda.
Thank you, Jody, and good afternoon, everyone. Since 2002, the South Carolina Afterschool Alliance has championed the work of after-school and summer programs, growing the network to 1,486 programs, impacting over 100,000 students across the state. We're touching more students than any school district in South Carolina. For mostly rural states like South Carolina, we are faced with many challenges in our efforts to offer quality STEM programming, like lack of access to internet, lack of adequate infrastructure, shortage of qualified staff, lack of staff confidence to offer STEM, and lack of role models in STEM fields for students of color, especially girls. Special partnerships have helped us address some of those barriers. In partnership with the South Carolina Educational Television and Verizon, we were able to provide internet access with donated modems and routers to after-school and child care providers. Funding from the Mott Foundation, STEM Next, and other partners, we were able to expand Million Girls Moonshot, a collective impact initiative designed to increase diversity and equity in STEM. In partnership with local colleges and universities, we convened over 1,000 elementary and middle school students, mostly girls, on campus to engage in a unique engineering and artistic design-based problem-solving competition. The competition was an opportunity to solve community problems using engineering, computer science, arts, aerospace, rocketry, spoken word, aeronautical engineering, science, and visual arts. Youth were challenged to tackle real-world problems by designing, building, testing a prototype, and pitching their innovation as a team. And at the beginning of 2020, we were excited about expanding more STEM opportunities. The sudden emergence of COVID-19 hit us all with a great blow. We had to pivot and pivot fast. Instead of canceling various initiatives, we decided to move forward, trim the activities, and make events and activities a virtual one. For several years, we collaborated with Claflin University to implement a 5-week biomedical biomaterial summer STEM camp for rising 10th, 11th, and 12th grade students of color from rural areas, and match them with a research professor of color to work on research projects together and serve as role models. Prior to the pandemic, this program gave youth an opportunity to experience life on campus for the 5 weeks. And so last summer and this summer, we took a chance and offered this program virtually. And the program went better than we expected. In addition, a collaborative effort with the Governor's School of Arts and Humanities gave us an opportunity to reach more students in rural areas through visual arts and animation. Students were taught animation basics to help create flip books. 1,344 students participated. Moving forward, we hope to expand more STEM opportunities to more children and youth in rural, underserved areas. Support from the Overdeck Family Foundation to advance STEM policy and build relationships with decision makers helped us pass after-school and STEM resolutions in the House and Senate, which positioned us for a partnership with the governor. This past April, Governor Henry McMaster announced he will use $12 million of his governor's education emergency relief funds to support after-school and summer programs. $4 million of the $12 million is dedicated to the South Carolina Afterschool Alliance, and we plan to use a portion of the funds to expand STEM opportunities to more than 100 programs across South Carolina. In addition to the governor's support, a special partnership with the University of South Carolina will allow approximately 8,000 students across 8 campuses to be trained as student instructors and volunteer mentors in local summer and after-school programs and receive credit hours for their civic positive impact college will have on our younger children and youth. Students participating in these programs will have a greater connection to caring adults, greater support academically, fun STEM, and greater possibilities to succeed in life. I'm looking forward to using the American after 3 p.m. STEM data to demonstrate both how far we've come as a field and how far we still have to go. The South Carolina Afterschool Alliance is committed to working with a variety of partners to broaden STEM opportunities for all youth in the state. And I know that my fellow statewide after-school network partners also share the same goal. We've made tremendous gains, but there is much work yet to be done. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Zelda. And now we're actually going to get to hear from two programs on the ground. So tremendous things going on for our children and youth in South Carolina. Our next speaker, Colin Zampieri, the CEO of Techbridge Girls. Techbridge Girls is a leader in our field, re-engineering the way STEM education is taught, experienced, and represented for BIPOC girls and those whose families experience economic insecurity. We are so excited to have you with us today. All yours, Nicole.
Thank you, Jody, and thank you, Afterschool Alliance, for your leadership and your advocacy with really bringing a light to the importance of STEM learning in the after-school space. As Jody noted, Techbridge Girls is a national organization where we are really focusing on the practice, the understanding, the execution, the delivery of how STEM education is taught and really presented to girls from marginalized communities, especially our Black, Indigenous, and all girls of color and gender expansive youth who experience economic insecurity. And we have a really strong focus and goal to serve 1 million girls by 2030, because we want to chip away around that 25 million gap that Jody talked about and the report shined a large light on. For us, and for the past 20 years, our work has been centered on our girls' voices, her needs, interests, and her brilliance through our gender responsive and culturally relevant curriculum that we develop. We also address and dismantle the systemic and oppressive barriers, beliefs, practices, and systems that are preventing our girls' persistence. We do this by equipping out-of-school time educators, STEM volunteers, and caregivers with STEM equity and social emotional training so that they can be better advocates and champions for our girls. What we have learned and understand very clearly is that oftentimes the focus is on the girls of what she lacks or can't do versus the ecosystem around her that is putting up barriers to get her through and thrive in STEM. And finally, we ensure our STEM experience at Techbridge Girls creates a space of joy, belonging, and empowerment. So our girls have a positive STEM identity that affirms her lineage and the unique contributions that many women of color have made to the STEM revolution. We don't think that our girls need an invitation to this industry, that we and our ancestors and their lineage have already laid the foundation for them to stand proudly in it and to own it, for them to continue and to thrive in it. So when we reviewed the report, and it just brought a light on so many things. And the great news is that STEM is a priority for parents, for student engagement, for schools as they're thinking about after school programming, for our community-based organizations that are providing programming for their youth in their community. However, as the report noted, there is still some inequities of race, gender, and class, and they play a critical role of access. But if we also talk directly to the youth, I'm sure it would also be in an aspect of engagement as well that is a big gap with what is happening in STEM learning. What we know and understand at Techbridge Girls is that we cannot unleash the intellectual excellence of our youth, especially girls and gender expansive youth, if we are not taking a holistic approach to their experience and really assessing or looking at the total environment in which our girls are surrounded by and the influences that help or prevent their persistence into STEM. One of the most shocking pieces of stats that were in the report was that the number of low-income children in after-school programming fell from 4.6 million in 2014 to 2.7 million in 2020. So that's roughly 2 million youth who are most vulnerable, who did not participate in what we all know on this call is one of the amazing gifts for youth to really expand their exploration, their identity, their community, their focus, also their intellectual development. And we left those students behind. And we know that for girls, there are certain things that are perpetuating why they are being left behind. A recent report that was actually just released yesterday by the Alliance for Girls, looking at the impact of COVID-19, specifically at girls in California, showed that like 44% of the girls that were surveyed in that study saw an increase of caregiving responsibilities. And we know at Techbridge Girls, caregiving has always been gendered, and it has always been an impact for participation into after-school programming. So when girls have the responsibility to take care of their younger siblings, take care of their elderly family members, or even take on some of the economic responsibilities to support the household, that is a direct impact to their participation in after-school programming. So for us at Techbridge Girls, what we've always done, and I see our founders on the line today, Linda Callis, who planted the seed, is that you have to make your after-school programming flexible, so that the girls' siblings can participate, or when we were in COVID and reacting to those moments, that we said, make sure you bring your younger sibling to be a part of the learning experience, so that even though you have to caregive for them, we're allowing you to still flourish and engage in something that you love, but not making you make a choice between the responsibilities that you have at home. We also did things where we engaged the caregiver, the family member, the parent in the household, so that we could remind them of all of the great work that this report showed about their increased understanding of the importance of STEM learning, that did not fade away in the moment of COVID, but continued to be front and center so that they could continue to nourish that excitement and inspiration within their girls. And what we also know is that community plays a big role in the after school space. And so when, for us, COVID hit, we already knew that building community was critical, but we also know that when COVID hit, isolation became a critical factor of social emotional well-being. So when we think about building programs post-COVID or continuing to build access around STEM learning, it really is important, especially for youth from marginalized communities, that we are taking this holistic approach. We are thinking not only about their intellectual growth and development, but their social emotional well-being. We're thinking about the community in which they need to build so that they can build a sense of positive STEM identity and a sense of belonging and connection to a space that often feels like is keeping them out of it. And we also know that we have to focus the effort on the ecosystem. Our girls lack nothing. Our girls are capable, they're ready, and they're willing to be in the STEM revolution. And it is us, the adults, that influence and impact their trajectory, that need to reflect on our own biases, get training to be better effective in front of them, put them at the center of our programming around their needs and interests, and think about their environment as a whole so that they're never making a choice between their learning and future opportunities and what they need to do in the real time. So I say, as the access continues to increase, let's keep remembering about the engagement and the opportunity that can be a continued challenge to that access, so that all of our girls and marginalized youth can thrive and strive in this STEM revolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. And it is now my great pleasure to introduce our final speaker, and then we will turn it over to your questions. Shannon Christian is the Executive Director of the Worland Youth Learning Center in Worland, Wyoming. Shannon is in a small rural community and does innovative work to bring STEM learning to her students. She's also one of our Afterschool Alliance ambassadors, which is a highly selective group of superstars that are changing the world in their communities through their after-school programs. And they're my favorite people to work with. And I am absolutely thrilled to have Shannon as part of this presentation. All yours.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I feel like I'm coming at this a little bit different. STEM learning is very important to our community. We are the only after-school program in Washakie County. Washakie County consists of Worland and Tensleep, but Tensleep is 32 miles away from us. We have about 4,500 people in our town, and any other bigger towns are anywhere between 70 and 90 miles away in any direction. So we are very rural. So I wanted to talk about a couple of the programs that we feel have been very successful. We do student interest surveys at the beginning of every survey, or the beginning of every school year, I'm sorry about that, to find out what the kids are interested in learning, to build some curriculum around that. Student voice and choice is very important to us. We're a very big farming community. So trying to keep kids interested in after school sometimes can be a little bit difficult. A lot of these kids go home after school because they live on farms, ranches, they have chores and other things that they can be doing. So getting them in here, it can be a chore unless it's stuff that's very engaging to them, things that they really want to learn about. So we do partner with our Big Brothers Big Sisters programs and our local 4-H programs to offer some even bigger agricultural pieces in STEM. It's great. We try to do activities with them at least once a month. But a few things that have been very successful for our local programs that were youth chosen is our walking classroom program. Sorry, I'm just going to grab that for you. They come in individual kits. They're by grade level. They come with over 200 podcasts on them based around different activities. One of the ones that I picked was on hurricanes. So what you would do is you would just assign each one of the students an iPod. They look like this. They come with earbuds. We would pick this selection, and so hurricanes would be podcast number 28. I know that podcast is 14 minutes long. There was a study done several years ago that students will use both sides of their brain, and they tend to hold on to that knowledge if they are active while they're learning. So these podcasts come with pre and post test. Everything is in binders, so it is very teacher and student friendly. I can see the chat at the bottom. We love the walking classroom also. Thank you for that. One of the great things that we love to do with these, especially in the winter, because winters, is we set up stations in our back gym. We will do a pre-test on whatever podcast is selected for that learning activity that afternoon. The kids will do their pre-test. They will grab their iPod. They will set it up, listen to it, and we set up physical activity stations in the back. And those activities are written on the walls. So when they get to that station, they read what they're supposed to do. They do that fun physical activity, and we make sure that everything lasts for that 14 minutes of that podcast learning. And then we bring them back. By then they're tired, they're a little bit hot, extra worked, but have had some fun. And then they do that same test as a post test. We have done it two ways. We've done it to where we do a pre-test and we don't do any physical activity, and then we do a post. And then we did afternoon, which was what we choose to do these days now, is we add the activity in there, whether it's walking. We take the kids outside if it's really nice, and we'll do activities outside. We'll do races. Like I said, if it's the weather's bad, we'll go into the gym and set up exercises, and we bring them back. What they have taken in and shown on those tests doing activities versus not doing activities while they're listening was, I believe the final result was about 83% more retention. It was amazing to see. I love data, so walking classroom is one of our favorites, but I will move on. Like I said, it is very kid friendly. It's very teacher friendly. It's individualized per student. So it's easy to keep track of, and it does not take a lot to store. Another program that was student chosen, but is also done at our local school district so that we can follow some of the curriculum and we can continue it into our after school programs through STEM, is Osmo. We love Osmo. It comes with, you have your iPad set up, there's a base, and this little right here has a mirror underneath it so that it can take the camera and face it down. This one particular that I just showed you is math, but it's done with pizza. So it is college and career readiness and teaching kids about money and business. There's little pizza boards. They come in these fun packages per student. So again, each child picks up their own activity. Pieces of curriculum, there's not a lot of distribution, there's not a lot of cleanup. In charge of each one of their own packets. This one particular, like I said, is based around money. So they have a customer that comes in, it's all animated. The customer will show them what they like on their pizza. They'll build that pizza. They'll send the pizza through. And then at the end, there's another section in here that has money. So they have to pay for that. And so the kids will have to learn how to count back money, and you can set it for all different age levels. I believe this one is set up for K through 5. So you pick your grade level so that we know that we're working at the right learning ability. We love doing family engagement, STEM and family engagement. After COVID hit, we kind of lost track with our parents. We stayed in touch with them very well, but we love having them in our facility, participating in activities, coming to family engagement nights, being very, very involved in their child's education. Excuse me. And we had a very big loss in that, not being able to have people on site or as many people in a room and on site. So we have been working very hard this last year to rebuild our family engagement, but our community is amazing. They love the programming that we offer. We love to send out surveys and get their input on things that their children are saying when they're going home every day after school. Getting them involved, family engagement is a very, very big part of what we are passionate about. So we do like to invite our parents to most of our STEM activities. So I know I'm running out of time, so I will let you guys go, but I really appreciate you letting me talking about some of our favorite programs that we like to offer in our small community.
Thank you so much, Shannon. And it's fun to watch you light up when you talk about your interaction with the kids and the parents. So now we are turning it over to your questions. Thank you. I hope that all of my panelists, all of our panelists will join back on screen, because I'm going to throw these questions out to all of you. The first question that I have is, are the funds that are available through the American Rescue Plan only available to schools? Are they also available to CBOs universally? And the answer is it's complicated. So we have a wonderful website called helpkidsrecover.org that has a lot of that information. But the truth is there are multiple funding streams in the American Rescue Plan that can be used to support after school and summer learning, and particularly STEM and after school and summer learning. The biggest two are education dollars. So there's a pot of money that went to every single state, and the state education agency has the discretion to figure out how to give out that money. And what we're finding is that in about half the states, CBOs can directly apply for that money. And in about the other half, they're just giving that money to school districts. Now, the school districts who are getting the bulk of that money, the instructions both to the state education agencies and the school districts is that they can use, it explicitly says they can use that money for after school and summer, but we have to convince them to do that. So as much as we've all been trying to encourage these partnerships, if your local school district has their hands on this money, they need to be the ones to give the money to community-based organizations and to partner with them. And again, we have lots of information to help make that case, data, examples, success stories. But there's also additional funding. Zelda mentioned governor's discretionary funds. Some neighborhoods have discretionary funds. We have definitely been tapping into school-age childcare dollars, so childcare funds. So I would encourage all of you to go to that website to let us know where you're struggling, to make sure your state network, your after-school state network knows if you're struggling. And I actually wanted to ask the other panelists if they have had success or have any advice on tapping into those American Rescue Plan dollars.
Hi, Jody. I would also recommend that if you are a local program, especially a community-based program, to connect with your statewide network. They will be able to at least help or guide you in some way. And some of the networks are actually, like South Carolina, we are actually distributing funds to community-based organizations, specifically just community-based organizations.
All right, I will jump to the next question, which I'm really going to target at Shannon and Nicole, and Zelda, you may have a perspective on this too, which is what do we know about the impact of the pandemic on STEM and after school, and what is planned in terms of STEM activities, particularly with the Delta variant, and is that impacting or changing what you're planning to do? And I can quickly say that, one of the things we were very excited about this summer and this fall was the intention of programs to be operating in person and interacting directly with kids. But I'm curious, what you're seeing on the ground.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in. During COVID, the Techbridge Girls developed, like most organizations, virtual learning programming. At the time, it was called Techbridge Girls at Home. It was an 8-week program where it was delivered by our out-of-school time educator, supported by our curriculum, lessons plans, training, as well as role model videos to support like the curriculum coming to life. We saw exponential growth, of course, with that program. And as COVID became more of like, this is the space that we were in, we were able to take a step back and say, okay, let's look at what we reactively created for the moment and understand what we can proactively create for the long term. Opportunities that come with the growth, but also the uncertainty with the future of COVID-19. Now that program is permanent in our programmatic work. It's called Ignite. It's even more flexible. So it can be done virtually or in person or as a hybrid, because we learned from our educator advisory council members that flexibility in these uncertain times was the most important thing to be able to continue to engage students with out-of-school time activities. So we'll continue to accelerate and build out our Ignite program, which will address what we're hearing on the ground right now is the uncertainty. So many of you all know is that we have elementary and middle school programs that we've done in person for 20 plus years, and we were prepared to go into in person with some of our partners this coming fall. But now with the variant, it's back to uncertain times, which the good thing is we can lean on Ignite to continue to build that partnership and that engagement for youth in those communities.
Shannon, do you want to add, what are you doing? Are you in person in Wyoming? Are you virtual, hybrid?
We went back in person last summer, so we were only closed for 2.5 months. But during that time, our program staff came together very, very well and decided that what was going to be a good start for us, being that this was something new for everybody, even our school teachers, was that some things that were important is that we were still able to offer tutoring services to our students. So we would set up times with them. If they needed help, they would call the center. We would have staff on site. If they needed any support at all, we would set them up with a time to Zoom with a staff member to make sure that their academic pieces are still being finished and completed, turned on. If they have questions or help, we could provide that. For our STEM piece, we started a YouTube channel, and 3 times a week we would post activities, and we would put all the supplies for those activities in a case outside of our facility, and they could come and pick them up if they did not have an opportunity or a way to pick up the curriculum pieces that they needed to be able to participate in that YouTube video. They would just shoot us a message, give us a holler, and we would deliver those supplies to their homes. And leave them on the porch. So whatever we could do just to keep the kids engaged every day, know that we're still here to support them, was what was most important to our program, because like I said, a lot of our kids, they don't have neighbors. So it's not like they can just go outside and do whatnot, very secluded areas. So we tried to make sure that we could provide as much support, curriculum, activities, and we still did family engagement activities. We did family game nights, and we would deliver games of their choice, and we would do it through Zoom. And it was a lot of fun when we finally got the hang of everything, but it definitely was not perfect. It's a huge learning experience for us. But we now know what to do differently to make it even better if we have to go through another shutdown.
So this I'm going to throw out to everybody, which is, do you have advice for parents who can't find an after-school program that offers STEM for their child? Any takers?
I mean, yes. Well, one, I think Afterschool Alliance, you all are leading in this, and is about being a really strong advocate for your community. So advocating to your school district, advocating to your, if you have an out of school time intermediary in your community, parents in, utilizing the power of your PTA or your school board, to help support bringing these resources into the community. I think for parents, again, I'm always through the context of the girls in which we serve, definitely have a lot on their plate. And so how can we make it easier by giving them, who to talk to in their community, talking points, pre-designed letters, understanding what to do to navigate the school board, process, or their local school district, or learning who their after-school intermediary is. Being able to give your parents or caregivers in your community these resources so that they can be advocates, but also leveraging educators. I think when Techbridge Girls first started, our main point of contact was really the educator, and our educators became advocates for our programming in their schools. So how can you also leverage the parent teacher relationship to both come at this for their administrator or their community organization? So just really making it easy and equipping our caregivers to be strong advocates, and giving them kind of some guidance on where to go to help support their efforts.
So I know we're getting short on time, and I do have one more question that I want to throw out there, but I just wanted to flag a couple of resources for all of you, many of which are being shared in the chat. And I thank you, Nicole. We have lots of information on our website. Your state network has lots of information on their website. Mizzen, which is a program and app by the Mott Foundation, has lots of great curriculum that could be part of your advocacy around getting more of these programs. I would also look at some of the programs that Gemma mentioned that Overdeck is funding because there are opportunities there. And then I would be remiss if I didn't flag our STEM Hub, which is a tremendous, tremendous opportunity that's housed at the Afterschool Alliance to help you identify some of the programs that exist and that exist in your community. So I know we're tight on time, but this kept coming up, and I'm hoping, Gemma, you might be able to answer it a little bit from the perspective of philanthropy, which is, what is the difference between STEM and STEAM?
Oh, I saw some dialogue on this. I think Chris noted that some programs use arts, and arts is a holistic term right now, just visual arts, but also thinking about all the digital arts and ways that students can be creative as a hook to engage kids who might not think STEM is for them. One of the huge challenges that we face as STEM educators is stereotype bias and the implicit sentiments that people are bringing that STEM is not for girls or STEM is not for students of color. And of course, we believe that absolutely STEM is for everyone. And arts, I think, can be one way to integrate some level of inclusion for students that have already identified a passion or talent in arts. It can also connect skills, right? There's plenty of digital design in the STEM world. And so we don't fund any explicit STEAM programs, but so many of our programs incorporate visual arts and design into their work. And so, yeah, I would encourage both parents to think about STEAM if arts is an interest for your child, and for programs to think about ways they can include creativity into their programming.
Zelda, do you want to say anything about that? Because I know you have some amazing STEAM programs in South Carolina.
Yes, we actually, excuse me, we have a partnership with Augusta University and to implement a program called STEAMify. And it brought probably 1,000 kids from 4th through 8th grade to the campus. But we offer a variety of activities. As it relates to the arts, we have included spoken word, dance, as well as painting and other things. But they have to, a part of the competition is that they have to incorporate some type of STEM in their performance. So if they're dancing, they may dance a theme related to the ocean and how the ocean needs to be clean, and or through or in other areas with the arts. So we have been fortunate enough to have great partners that know how to incorporate and infuse the arts in the STEM activities.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Zelda. So next question, which is, how do you cater activities to meet different group sizes effectively? And this is written by someone who says, I can't teach a lesson to a group of 90 kids, which is what some of the sites have, which is, versus like 10 or 20 kids. And also, how do you distinguish, and I think we heard a little bit about this from you, Shannon, about different age groups and applying, similar lessons to kids of different ages.
We actually break our facility down into programmatic areas, and then there is a paraeducator assigned to each one of those areas. When it comes down to breaking up classroom sizes, we also separate everybody and write lesson plans based around grade level and academic level. So we have students on IEPs that may need a little extra support in these areas, but we also don't want to take them out of their thing. It is more of a STEM setting or like a maker space setup. So I would say I tend to never turn students away. We always want our programs to grow. But at the same time, what I try to do is either bring in really good volunteers or teachers if I can, that specialize in certain areas or grade levels. And if I can't do that, I'm so sorry, the phone is ringing. We will bring on additional staff for those programs, which I know not everybody can do because money is always an issue, but we do really break our groups down by STEM area, so academic area, and then we structure it down by grade, and then they rotate through those sections every 30 to 45 minutes, depending on the activity.
So
Oh,
go
sorry,
ahead, Nicole,
Jody.
and then I know we're over time, but I appreciate everyone for staying with us because there's great questions. So
Yeah, just really quickly, I would just ask the question before you start is like, what is the intended outcome? So at Techbridge Girls, we have any given day where we can serve 250 girls at one time or 20. And we right size our expectation of the outcome based on that population and based on what our results are wanting to. Sparking an interest is really different than building STEM identity, the approach to that. So I think that when you make a decision, if you're going to have a large group, you have to right size the expectation on what the outcome or the results you want to have with that group. If it's, of course, the smaller the group, the more deeper the intervention you can go. So having an expectation of having 90 youth in a room and thinking you're going to have this deep intervention is probably a disconnect of an outcome that you're trying to achieve. So I would just say, think about, number one, what is the outcome that you want to achieve? I do think that you have to utilize youth development practices to ensure that your programming aligns with the age development of that youth so that it can really engage and connect with them. It's the reason why we have elementary, middle, and high school programming separate at Techbridge Girls. And then really, set the model or the programmatic approach accordingly.
So thank you so much. And a huge thank you to all of our amazing panelists who are really helping our kids make extraordinary strides in STEM and STEM learning in the out of school time space. I want to thank all of you that participated in this briefing, all of your great questions. Thank you to all of you that are working with kids because we hear the stories. You are making a huge difference in their lives. You're doing it before the pandemic. You're doing it even more so now. It's one of the things that are keeping, many of our kids afloat, knowing that their after school programs are out there. So last but not least, go to our website, www.afterschoolalliance.org. Tons of information and a lot more data from this report. So have a great day and be well.